Welcome into the End of Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. Tom Leach, along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's Director of Mutuals and Simulcasting, as we take a look at the Friday card, October 14th, headlined by the Grade 3 Buffalo Trace, Franklin County on the turf for fillies. Who'd you like in that one, Jim?
Well, when I first looked at it, Tom, I looked at a lot of horses. I had 5 or 6 circled here and started narrowing down because when I got to my pick 4, I needed to narrow it down. And I wound up with the 2 horses that came out of the race at Saratoga back in August. Miss Ella, the 9, Grand Motion, and Fairpoint, the 11 for Shug McGahee. The Spartan Fancy, $100,000 stakes at 5.5 at Saratoga, which is exactly what they're running here. Fairpoint ran down Miss Ella, or they actually both closed in the pace, and Fairpoint won by a head. And I couldn't separate them much, so I wound up going ahead and not separating them and taking them on top here in interweight race wagers. I think both of them, you can make a case. Both of them have had a little bit of rest off, August 28th, so they've got a couple months to recover from what was a really career effort for Fairpoint and just a consistent effort for Miss Ella. If I had to take one or the other, I would probably take Fairpoint with Ortiz because she's got more upside. She's getting better right now. Her last 4 buyers are 84, 87, 85, and 94. And the 5.5 furlongs seems to hit her right between the eyes. So those 2 horses are my pick here. I would play those 2 in exactas and tries with Touch of Bling, the 1, Late Spring, the 2. Mississippi Delta intrigues me a little bit. Mark Cassidy ran this filly in the First Lady. Went off at 71-1 and ran like it, but obviously didn't get anything out of the race, shortening back up to 5.5 in only 6 days. Not exactly something that Cassidy has done. He's only done it 3 times and with no success, but he liked the way, I guess, she came out of the race, so he runs her back in a lot more reasonable spot here. He wasn't going to win the First Lady with Tepid and Photo Call in there, but this is a reasonable place for him to put her. Melaleuca is the other filly that I like a little bit coming out of Indiana races, so I would play those horses below. Miss Ella, the 9, and Fairpoint, the 11.
I'm going to take an interesting shot here, kind of way outside the box. And I've mentioned this before in these turf races, turf sprints, where there are full fields. Jeremy Plunk at Keeneland.com and in his column always points this out when he analyzes the trends and the stats for each day's card, that the 3, 4, and 5 post positions have really done exceptionally well historically in turf sprints. And you get some really crazy prices. Mississippi Delta's one of those out of the 3 hole. But I'm going to actually take a shot and key the 4 Scattergun with what I would consider the logical win candidates. Scattergun's taking a big step up in class versus these, but is working well off a nice win at Kentucky Downs. This is a horse that's obviously had some issues because there have been long gaps in her performance, but very favorably drawn, got some good speed. Speed's been doing well on the turf course. So I'm going to key Scattergun, and it's not so much a win pick as just a key horse pick in exactas. And I'm going to use Scattergun as the key horse with Mississippi Delta, Everything Lovely, and then the 2 you mentioned, Miss Ella and Fairpoint. And one of those 4 is probably the most logical winner of the race. But I'm going to try to throw in a big price. I think Scattergun's 20-1 on the morning line, and I don't think we'll take a ton of money too far below that. So that's going to be the kind of unconventional play in the Buffalo Trace, Franklin County for me. Let's go to the 7th race, take a look at the late pick 4. And I ended up wanting to spread in really probably all of these races to a certain degree, but you can't do that and keep the ticket affordable. So I'm going to take a stand right the first leg and single a horse. And if he comes through, then I'm going to have a good chance to hit the pick 4. And it's Harlan Punched, the 1 horse in the 7th race, dropping out of a tougher heat at Saratoga. And I think speed's very important in these sprints on the dirt. And I think this horse in this particular field, there's not a lot of speed in here, so I think he can be even closer than he normally is. And he's normally not too far out of it. So Harlan Punch for me is going to be the single. And then I'm going to use in the 2nd leg, the 8th race, Twiz is the one I like, but also using Epic Journey, Quixote, and Richie the Bull. I'm going to use all 5 of the horses I mentioned in the feature. And then in the last race, Phone Chick, who caught a tough field in the debut, but also going to use Dirty Red, Blame the Law, and a firster, Lovely Marissa. How about you?
I couldn't cut down the first race. Harlan Punch was my first choice, but just the reason that you said, there's just not much speed in here, and I'm afraid that one of these other horses might get to the lead, and Harlan Punch can't catch up at 7 furlongs. I'm going to go 5 deep here with Harlan Punch the 1, Goatstown the 3, and then the outside Unbridled Outlaw the 7. Pimento the 8 would be my pick, except he's been off since August, and not sure that he's ready yet. And take to the streets for Channing Hill, and Kellen Gorder is outside and drawn well to maybe get the lead and take him a long way. So I'll go 1, 3, 7, 8, 9. In the 8th, I cut it down to 2 horses, and only one of those that you mentioned, Quixote, the 6, who had a terrible trip and didn't finish last time out at Saratoga, but go back before that, and he fits really well. And Blue Wings, the 8 for Le Peru and Pat Huffman. So 6, 8 there, going to take a little bit of a stand there. In the feature, I would use just the 9 and 11 we talked about, the Miss Ella and Fairpoint, the 2 horses coming out of Saratoga. And then in the last race, wide open, maiden special weight at 6 furlongs, it's going to cost you $10 a horse. So it's real easy with my first picks. I went 3, 9, 11 in here for $30. Dirty Red, the 3 for Canelli, the 9 for Wesley Ward, Finia, and the one you mentioned, Lovely Marissa, who would probably be my top pick for Larry Jones, the 11. If you want to add more, it costs you $10 a horse. So 1, 3, 7, 8, 9 with 6, 8 with 9, 11 with 3, 9, 11, $30.
And I think I had the wrong number for Dirty Red in the last race on my ticket. So mine will be 1 with 9, 5, 6, 2 with 4, 3, 6, 9, 11 with 8, 7, 3, 11. So that's how we see it on the Friday card. Best of luck with your wagers. Big Saturday coming up, headlined by the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup, and we'll have a podcast for that here at KeenelandSelect.com. For Jim Goodman, I'm Tom Leach, and this is the In the Money Podcast.